Hey guys, welcome to day two, or part two, whatever you want to call it. It's technically second day. Um, we're back here with the class today after a really good day one. Um, let's see, I feel bad that I missed most of the first stream. Hopefully I can catch up pretty fast to get my schedule in order. Yeah, a lot of people miss the streams sometimes because there's like a split where certain people can make the streams, certain can't. So that's why there's the setup that you could come back and watch more later. Um, But yeah, today, based on what you guys can see from the title, we're doing basic data types today. Nice new mic. Does it sound better? Really? It's the same mic. But either way, if it sounds better, that's good. Um, Basic data types will basically be our first steps into actually learning JavaScript other than being able to log like um, console to log a console. Yes, it's the same mic that I use on Discord. I don't have anything. Yeah, I do need to look into that. Probably should. Honestly, I wish I could make it more sensitive without making it buzz a huge amount. Because that becomes so obnoxious you can't even hear me, you just hear static. But yeah, for today we're going to get into basic data types, which is going to be things like booleans, numbers, strings, etc. Yesterday, for a quick recap, we went ahead and went over um, the basics of programming, how to think about it, how to write a script, the steps to that. We also set up a basic JavaScript file and logged something to the console, hello world or whatever, your basic hello world script really, using Node.js. So we got some pretty good steps done. Um, Today we have, oops, I didn't want to show that yet, but we'll get to that later. Um, but today we're going to cover this bullet point, and if we have time, maybe more, but this is what I have prepped at least. Statements and loops, I don't actually have everything prepped for, so maybe not. If we get into that, I might write something after the stream for you guys. But um, so yeah, before we start, does anyone have any questions they've had over time, especially anyone who might have not been on the last stream and watched it in advance and is up to this one now? You can ask in Twitch chat or on Discord. I watch both along with Fart, and we'll keep an eye out for questions and help answer them as soon as we see them. Alright, I'm going to take that as a no since I don't see any Discord typing. If you have a question, feel free to keep typing it, and I'll get to it as soon as I see it. But yeah, so hold on, actually, let me check on one thing. Yeah, whatever, we should be fine. Okay, so today we're going to get started with basic data types. So this is going to be your actual first touch on some actual JavaScript, I suppose. You're not really going to be able to do much of anything. You're not going to be able to make the computer do really much of anything right now, but we'll get to that with a lot of the other stuff we're going to get into here. But before that, we're going to start with a few things. So I'm going to start with a slightly more in-depth explanation of what console.log was, because that's what you're going to be using to logging your results, basically. So console.log is something called a method, which I'm not going to explain right now. Object method thing. But what all you really need to know about it right now is that whatever you put between the parentheses, so whatever you put inside of here, it will log to your console. So that's what you need to know, and that's what you'll use to log your results when you're testing things. And also do note, you can, of course, use Node and you can run whatever it is you want to do here. If you're just doing a simple basic type something in a one line log thing like we did with our original thing, that's an easy option for that. But if you're doing something that requires multiple lines, please do use a file, as that's far easier and better. Um, but yeah, so that's simple enough. If you have a question about that, feel free to drop it and I will get to it, but I'm going to continue on at this point. So we're gonna go over a just one part of basic syntax here, more or less that all lines, almost all lines, end with a semicolon in JavaScript. So that signals the end of a line. It's in some cases, like at the end of code blocks, which we'll get to later, you don't necessarily need a semicolon. Or at the opening a code block too, you don't need a semicolon either. You actually shouldn't have one, otherwise that'll break, I'm pretty sure. Um, but in most cases, you'll want a semicolon. Um, there's other syntax rules. I've already talked about indentation yesterday. If you haven't seen yesterday's stream, I highly recommend looking at it, as that's going to be your foundation and is honestly the most important part of this course. Let's see, next up. So we're going to start with something that's not actually something you execute on the computer. We're going to start with comments. So let me actually go ahead and make a file here for this. I'm just going to call it day2jet JS. Now I'm going to call it basic data types, and I'm going to camel case it and spell it correctly. So yeah, oh, and one other thing that's useful and you should be doing, you should be starting all your files with use strict like that. Why? I'll explain it a little later during this. It has to do with scopes and variables and other things. Basically, it makes JavaScript more strict so you won't get mysterious errors that you don't understand as often. So it's definitely a good choice to do that. We didn't need to do it for this because it's so simple and I didn't want to overwhelm, but do start it with single quote, use space, strict, single quote, semicolon, all lowercase letters. So we're going to start with comments actually. So when you have any sort of code in your whatever, you're probably going to have comments somewhere in there, like, I don't know, this. Like, this is a comment. It's not code that's run. All of this, etc., is stuff that's run. This is telling the computer to do something. This is a human readable thing. Aliases that are implemented as regular FAQ entries starting with a thing, etc. It's something for a programmer to read, not for the computer to read and understand. The computer will ignore those lines. So there's two ways to signify a comment in JavaScript. The first is a single line comment. If you start a line with a double slash, it's a single line comment. So this is a single line comment. The next line after that and the line before that are both valid JavaScript. You can see they're not green on Visual Studio. That means they're not a comment. This dark green signifies a comment on Visual Studio Code. Of course, it lasts only till the end of a line, so anything after it. You can also put code before it, so like if I wanted to say hello world, I could do that first. This would run up until this point. Anything, including and after the comment, will not run on this line. The next type, the only other type, is a multi-line comment. You signify the start of it by /*, and anything after that will be commented out. You have to close it though, because otherwise the rest of your entire file is going to be commented out. So you need to end it with asterisk, that same slash. I don't remember if that's a front or backslash. But yes, this is a multi-line comment. Notice I'm indenting it because that's generally good practice. The contents of it. Oh, geez, my thing fell down. Hold on. All right, there we go. You can, of course, like anything else, it's anywhere before the mark. So you could, again, if my thing would be nice and let me copy paste properly today, put stuff before it. That's generally not good practice, though. It's generally best for multi-line comment to either like comment out part of it. So like, if you could comment out, and I did that completely backwards. You could comment out this part of it and instead put in Twitch, which, as an example, this would only log hello Twitch. It would completely ignore this part here because it's commented out. Yes, I did fart, thank you. Basically, since comments aren't run by the computer, you can use them to explain what your code is doing without worrying about breaking your program. Yes. So that's the idea of it here. You can do that with it if you want. I usually only do that if I'm debugging something and need to comment something out for a little bit. That's generally not something you want to see in published code. You just want one or the other. So like, let's say I was done and decided the other one was better, I'd stick with that. But yeah, those are comments. Simple enough. Does anyone have a question on comments? How would you know between using single or double quotes? I'll get to that when I get to strings for why you should use one over the other depending on your circumstances, but generally there is no difference. In most circumstances, you can use whichever you please. And even in some circumstances where it's preferred to use one or the other, you could still choose whichever you please. You just have to start the string with the same one and end it with the same one. You cannot start it with a double and then end it with a single. And there's another one, I don't know what it's called, this symbol, but yeah, that one. Don't know what that's called, but we'll get to that. Alright, backtick, yeah, I think that's what it's called. Okay, I don't see any questions, other questions. So I think we'll go ahead and continue on. Our next section is, what are keywords? Well, keywords are something you'll deal with a lot in JavaScript. More or less, they are words that signify that you want to do something specific in JavaScript, and it comes in the format of a word. So you'll get to learn 3 keywords today, I think. Maybe more, maybe less. But there's quite a number of them, and this is a good list of ones that are at least reserved. Some of these are keywords, some are just you can't use them. So you cannot use these reserved words as variables, labels, or function names, which we'll get to variables later today, and the other 2 we will not for a while. Actually, we won't get to labels at all. I don't know what they mean by that. But a number of them, like var is one we'll get to today. You cannot use var for whatever you please. It specifically tells that you want to create a variable, which again we'll get to later. But yeah, there's quite a number of them. I will go ahead and link this in chat if you guys are curious, but generally you should be okay. Anyways, anyone have a question on reserved keywords or keywords, reserved words, anything like that? You can always refer to a list later, and I believe if you attempt to use one illegally, you'll get an error, something along the line of using a reserved word in the way that you shouldn't, or something like that. Alright, I'm going to take that as a no and continue on. Okay, next up, we're going to actually start with the first thing in here. We're going to do Booleans first. So, Booleans, most everything can boil down to a Boolean. It's basically true or false. Something in JavaScript, and I'm pretty sure most other languages, but I could be wrong here. I don't know. I would assume so, because that's basically how a computer sees it. Everything is either can boil down to true or false. Nothing is not that in the end. As simple as that. At least how you can boil down to it. So, there's there's more keywords involved in these that I didn't think of. Like I said, we could have more. The keywords for these are true and false. So, true basically literally and false literally represent what they are. They represent those not variables, booleans. So, what can you do with them right now? You guys don't really have anything to work with them yet, and we probably won't till at least tomorrow. So, unfortunately, right now, just know they exist, and they're reserved keywords and they're called Booleans, and the concept that in the end everything in JS can be true or false. I mean, they don't know conditionals yet, Space Cactus. That's kind of the thing there. So that's why I'm not pushing conditionals. But yeah, anyone want to shoot a question on Booleans? Actually, we're running pretty quickly. We might just drop right into statements and loops too today. Depends on how fast we go. Yeah, generally I don't even think you can leave those by themselves, so I'll probably just comment these out. I'm gonna take the fact that I don't think there's any questions right now. No and no. Okay. How does true and false relate to 0 and 1, or 0 and anything else? I wasn't going to get into this quite yet, but I can dabble into a little bit. Every other data type, everything else in JavaScript is either true or false, like I said. So in this case, 0 and 1, there's a select number of things that are falsy, as we call them, which basically means if you stuck them into an if statement and checked if that returns a truthful value, it would, like I said, I'm getting into things you guys don't understand, hence why I didn't want to jump into this yet, but I know you know a little bit, so I'll assume this is for you. It would return true or false. So anything falsy would be considered false by that statement, and truthy would be considered true. Falsy values include empty strings, 0, I think nan as well, or is nan truthy? I'd have to look up a list. Let me pull up a list of truthy, falsy really quick. I mean, like it's gonna boil down to one or the other in the end. Hold on. Yeah, there's only 6 falsy values in JavaScript: undefined, null, nan, 0, empty string, and false. Everything else is considered true, including 0 inside of a string. Well, yeah, not a number. I mean, like, looking at this, not a number. Okay, let me check that then. You guys probably won't understand this, but that's fine. I just want to check this. Nope. Or, well, I should have said truthy because that doesn't make sense. But yeah, that if statement obviously evaluated to false. Anyways, I mean, yeah. Why did I clear this time? Whatever. But yeah, anyways, I'm not gonna try to dig into it more because we're not quite ready to get there yet. But yeah. Yeah, please don't apologize for having questions. It's fine. If you're curious about it, we got some time. For anyone who didn't understand all that, that's fine. We're not into conditionals or anything yet, so don't fret. What we are going to get into now is we're going to, assuming and no one has any more questions about Booleans, we're going to jump into numbers and actually do things. Okay, I'll take that as no. Okay. All right, numbers. Numbers in JavaScript are pretty simple to, use or create. Quite literally type the number you want in, but if it's like a number in the thousands, please don't use commas. It's not going to understand that. No commas. Negative numbers, of course, just not an equal sign. Come on. Start it with a negative sign, a dash, whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty simple. Decimals, once again, use a decimal point. So it's pretty simple to create a number. But we want to talk more about what you can do with these. So they exist, sure, great, but that's about as useful as a Boolean right now. You can do math in JavaScript, which should be obvious as a computer. They kind of run on zeros and ones and do a lot of math to get things to work. So, yeah, you can do math in JavaScript, and that's a bit of what I'm going to teach you here. So there's in math, I'm not going to teach you powers or roots because that uses a bit of functions and methods, but I am going to teach you the other four basic ways and something called modulus. So that's addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and of course what I said, modulus or modulus. I don't know. How do you pronounce that part? Yeah, that. I'm pretty sure I had it right the first time. Okay, good for once. Anyways, I'm going to be wrapping this in console.log so we can actually log it, and I'm going to comment this out so we don't get extra stuff. So yeah, we're going to do a bit of math, and I'm adding spaces there so I can see you clearly. Um, Addition is signified with the plus sign, and like 2 plus 2, that basic thing that you always see and muck around with. Let me actually go ahead and head into my thing. I have to CD all the way using an absolute path because my thing starts in a weird spot, so 1 second. Okay, and but oh, come on. Did I mistype my thing? Yeah. I didn't add an S to my file name. I'm gonna change that. That's annoying to me. Okay, let me rename my thing. But yeah, as you can see, it logged 4 to the console there. Actually, I could just use Node for this. Why not? It's literally just one-line statements, so we'll just stick with Node for now. So like 2 plus 2, 4. Um, it's simple math, combines numbers together like you already know. Concerning how to do it, like it's generally frowned upon to do that where you have no spaces between them. It's generally good practice to put space between your numbers and your operators. So subtraction, I would assume you also know how to do that. Basic stuff. Again, multiplication that's a subtraction symbol, a hyphen. Multiplication uses the asterisk, so you can go ahead and use that to get any of your multiplication needs done. And division, and of course, in those that require like division and subtraction that require it to be in a specific order, it's in the order that it appears. So like 10 minus 80 is the order for this one here, as you can probably tell by the result. So, and your division is also pretty simple, and it can return weird values and decimals and whatnot, depending on how you do it. Repeating decimals will be cut off at some point by console.log. But yeah, those are your basic types. So now the weird one, the one that you guys may not understand as much, is modulus. So modulus is basically division. So like 70 divided by 6. If we do that like we did above with division, that returned 11.666 repeating. If we use modulus, however, instead of returning the result, it's going to return the remainder. So 70 divided by 6 is whatever with a remainder of 4. 11 technically because we did the above calculation. So this can be useful in certain situations. Like, what if you want to know if a number's even? You would do, okay, so let's see, is 5 even? Well, you take that number and do modulus on it, divide it by 2, and get the remainder. Oh, that's a 1. That means it's not even because all even numbers are divisible by 2 evenly. That's a good way to check it in JavaScript, especially like you might think that's kind of useless because like, oh, I can just figure out if I could do 5 is divisible by 2 in my head evenly, right? Well, yeah, sure, but what if you have a program that's taking user input of numbers and you need to check if the number the user put in is even or not? You don't know what number is going to be put in every single time. And it could be an odd number, so you need to have a way for the computer to check if it's even or odd. And that's what that's for, at least. Let me see, what are all these pings for? Okay. Any questions so far? I I think I covered everything I need to on math, at least for basic math. Oh, there's more I need to cover, but any questions so far? There's more for math I need to do. I would assume you guys know how to do multiplication and such. I'm gonna take that as no one has a question on how this works. Okay. Yes. Okay, so the other thing I do want to show is, let me just clear this again so it's clean. What code specifically? For modulus? Oh dear. That's annoying. Yeah, I could show modulus again. So like, I'm not actually editing the code. I'm actually have been typing things into the console itself. But yeah, I can put this in VS Code. So like, that's addition. It's normally not a good idea to put these spaces here, so I'll get rid of them. I'll add subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. And checking if something's even as well. Okay, does that help? Hi, Kraken. You guys are free to write this up in any way you want using any number of numbers or whatever. Um, Let me see what else do I got here. No one on Discord. Okay. I'm not gonna exactly run these files because I'd rather use the node thing for the basic one-line things, just because it's not gonna spam my thing with all these extra things. But when we get to a multi-line thing, I'll probably make a new file and do it from there. Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming no questions because I don't see any, and we're gonna go ahead and step into another step of math. More or less using parentheses in math to group things. Just like in algebra, you've seen like the quantity 5 minus 3 divided by 6 or something like that, which tells you to disobey the normal order of operations, to do powers and roots first, that followed by multiplication and division, followed by addition and subtraction. Math will follow that order of operations. So, for example, if we have 5 times 3 minus 2, you get 13 if you type it out like that. But if you tell it to do the subtraction first, you're going to get 5. So like on the first one, like in normal math, it's going to do the multiplication first. So 5 times 3, 15, then take away 2, 13. Simple enough. The other way, it says do 3 minus 2 first, 5 times 1 is 5. So that should help you. You can also have multiple nestings. You don't have to do a single thing, like you could do minus 3 by 2 minus 7 or whatever to get some answer like that. 2 minus 7 is going to be a minus 5. 3 minus minus 5, it's going to be changed to addition and become 7. 5 times 7 is 40. Or, wait. I'm off by 1. Whatever. You get the idea, though. I'm not here to teach math. I'm here to teach JavaScript. Um, yeah, just make sure your parentheses match up and you're not missing one, because if you're like missing a parenthesis, it's going to expect something. Like on the node thing, it's going to just make you put in another parentheses, but if you're actually running a script from a command line, it's going to throw an error or something weird is going to happen. I know I wanted to do that. Is there anything else I'm missing? I don't think I'm missing anything. Can you think of anything, Fart? Okay. Storming out and the power could go out at any moment. I'm sorry about that, Rainexus Gaming. That was happening earlier. Hey, Super Mario fans, and welcome to the stream. Next thing I want to look into with numbers is something called nan. You won't encounter nan until we do something called strings, but that's like literally next, so we're gonna do it. Nan is equal to itself. It stands for not a number. More or less, it's if you try to make the computer add, multiply, subtract, divide, it will not add. Add will do something different, which we'll get to in a little bit. But subtract, multiply, divide, do modulus on a number and a string. So, or anything else really that's not a number. So like 5 times high, nan. It can't calculate that. Oh, and I just thought of something. If you try to divide by 0, it's gonna give you infinity. At least on here, I think on an actual thing, it's gonna crash. So yeah, don't divide by 0 when running it from a file. That might be catching it to stop it. Let me run it from a file. Let me run this file just because I'm curious what happens. It does infinity, okay. Alright, cool. Infinity, whatever. Still, don't divide by 0. It's kind of pointless. Does anyone have questions about anything we've done in numbers? Math, modulus, nan, parentheses, nesting, don't divide by 0, infinity thing? Because I will gladly take them now. Okay. I don't see anything coming in on Discord in the general chats. Okay, let's go ahead and touch on strings then, why not? So, next up is strings. So, you've poked with strings before with our hello world example, but we're going to go into them a little more here. So, a string is basically data that contains some text, usually human readable, but sometimes not always, like it could be a collection of data stored in that string or whatever. A string is started with either a single quote and ended with one, like VS Code automatically puts it in, and it contains some text. Not always quite literally those words, but in this case, yes. They can also be started with double quotes. And what did we call these again? Backticks. Yes. Backticks will not work in older browsers or something. It's a newer feature, but like I said, we're doing more modern JavaScript here, so I don't care. Those are the 3 ways you can start a string. And, well, create a string. Strings can contain really any character, numbers, letters, symbols, even Unicode, though Unicode's done in a special way, rather than just copy pasting it into the string. You can put people use, well, a lot of people use Unicode to put HTML in it and then send it to a client to have it parsed. Of course, we don't do that here. We're not even close to something like that. But yes, anything, really. Like I said earlier, a string is not a number, so if you try to do something like 5 times 6, that's not going to work because you have a string multiplied by a number, even though that string contains only a number. In our eyes, that's a number, but the computer sees it as a string, so that it will not work. Do not do that. That's going to give you nan. And I have not been putting semicolons on my lines. I'm bad. Okay. So, what can you do with these strings? Well, there's quite a number of things that you can do that you're not ready to do yet, unfortunately, because you haven't learned methods and whatnots yet. I'd like to get that concept down first. So, for now, we're limited to a few small things. Don't upset your nan. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, do you have to? Okay, anyways. So, with strings, you can do a few things here. So, I'm going to teach you guys how to combine strings together. So, combining strings, like I said, if you try to, like I said, anything but add a string and a number is going to fail, and adding is going to do something different than what math would do. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about with combining strings. So, like, hello plus world. That's an example of combining strings. That would return the string hello world. So it takes this string and directly connects them together. If you want a space, you have to include it. If you do this, it's going to return this. Please be careful with your spaces. If you want to make it very clear, you could also do something along the lines of that. And another thing, yes, strings can be empty. If you're wondering, this is quite literally an empty string. It contains nothing, and if you add it to something, it'll do nothing. Except turn it into a string if it's not the other thing. But that's the basic idea of combining a string. That's how it works with single, double quotes, and backticks. But backticks, also called template strings, have another way you can kind of do that, which is a bit different and is more useful when you get into variables. So, like, you can use this indicator, $, open brace, close brace, and then what you want to put into it. So, like this. This is obviously quite stupid, as you would just want to write your string out normally instead of this, but it basically takes whatever you put within the brackets and puts it into that spot in the string. It's basically what we call syntax. I don't know how to syntaxical, I guess. I might be mispronouncing that. Syntaxical sugar. It looks nice. But yeah, that'll become more handy when we're into variables, including combining strings. Another thing with combining strings, you can put numbers into a string. So, for example, 2 plus 2 is equal to, and then 2 plus 2. So, that's going to return 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, which I'm not going to type out. But the reason we use the parenthesis at the end there is to tell it to do the math before we combine the string, because otherwise it's just going to do it in order, and it's going to say string plus 2 and then plus 2, and you're going to end up 2 plus 2 is equal to 22, which is not quite what we want here. But maybe it is if you're being funny. I know someone who thinks that's funny. I think not just you. Wasn't referring to you. But yeah, so does anyone have any questions so far on strings? Hi, Scrimble. Do you have a question or? Okay. If you guys are curious about anything or confused or whatever, go for it. We got plenty of time. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. But at this point, yeah, I've gone over nan again and whatnot, so we should be at that point where we can continue on. Does minus do the same thing? No, in this case, minus will not take a hunk of a string off. You'd use a string. What should call it? Let me look at my schedule. I have the technical name. This is one of those things I can't remember. Um, it would be a built-in method on the string, which is obviously something that you probably don't understand at all what I just said. Um, that you'd use to remove a part of a string, and you'd need some additional data to select where from the string you want to remove from. But for now, no, you can't remove something from a string. Multiply, divide, modulus, those symbols also do nothing to a string. You'll just, like, if you do string minus 5, you're going to get nan because it thinks you're trying to do math. Same thing with the other ones. And I think string minus string is just going to, I don't even remember what that's going to do. Like, yeah, that's just going to return nan. It thinks you're doing math. Unlike if you do plus, it's going to combine them. Really? Wow, okay, I did not know that actually. That's weird. That's kind of stupid, honestly. It should be more strictly typed. Hi, Shads. I don't know why JS does that, and honestly, it's pretty bad practice to be doing that. Just use actual numbers, to be honest. In the future, I will be teaching a way to turn strings into numbers that are just a string inside of a number, but I highly suggest against just doing like string minus string. I don't consider that good practice. Okay, any further questions on strings? Okay, I'll take that as no. I don't see anything going on in Discord. Okay. All right, next section we're going to look into variables. So we have three basic data types now. Booleans, numbers, and strings, and it's great they exist and we can log them to the console to our heart's content. And variables isn't going to make us be able to create anything like Showdown alone, but it is another essential part of JS. So for those of you who don't know what a variable is, think of it like a way to store a piece of data of some kind under an alias. So like the idea is you can store whatever data you want under a specific alias, and whenever you want to pull whatever may be contained in that data, which is very useful when you have data that changes based on user input, etc., which is a lot when you're doing an actual application. You can reference whatever may be contained in there by the name of that. So, like for example, turnip, that could be the name of a variable, something random like that. Here's fart's name, that counts as a variable if it's just put out like that. But that's so if you see things like that, that might be a variable name. However, to create a variable, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, let turnips, or I don't know, it's not as simple as turnips, and wow, now we have a variable called turnips. No, you have to declare it. There's three keywords for declaring variables. The first and most basic one is called var. You see it turned dark blue, that means it's a variable, or keyword. Um, Never mind, I don't get the coloring here. But var basically means we want to create a variable. You need to put a space after the word var and then the name of the variable, so turnips. So if you do this, you now have a variable called turnips. Okay, so it exists. What do I do with it? Well, first of all variables always contain some data, and you can set what that data's value is at any time using assignment. Well, most of the time. Let me double check what I'm doing. Yep, okay. Eval turnips, error var turnips, ignore what I'm doing. Oh, come on, Space Cactus. Stop throwing turnips everywhere. But, so, by default, if you do not give a variable a value when you declare it, which I'll explain how to do in a little bit, it's going to contain a value called undefined, which is another keyword. Quite literally just means an undefined value. You can't do anything with undefined other than, check if something's undefined or whatever. So, yeah, it's kind of pointless at that point. So we need to give it a value. There's two ways we could do that. We could do that when we create the variable or afterwards, and you can change it afterwards too. For simplicity, I'm going to do it when we create it. To assign a value to a variable, we use the equal sign, which you probably should have seen coming. So, ignore the error for now. On the left-hand side of the equal sign, we have var to signify we're creating a new variable. Then the name of the variable we're creating, which cannot already be in use. So if we already defined turnips, because we're defining a variable, it's called defining, then you cannot use the var keyword before you assign. If you've already defined it, you'd want to do just turnips equal. Like that, because we've already defined it. If you try to use var again, that I'm pretty sure that's not a reference error, whatever. It's some kind of error. I don't remember the exact name of it. Undefined is not the value of a variable. It tells you that the variable does not have an assigned value, not null, not anything else. Yes, that's very correct. You, however, can set a variable to undefined to be fair. So on the right side, you'll want what you're setting it to. So right now, it's giving me a couple errors because I haven't assigned it to anything. You can't just stick a semicolon and end the line and leave it blank. If you wanted to set it to undefined, you'd literally use undefined, but obviously we don't want to do that. So in this case, I feel like turnips should be some kind of number because it's probably referring to a number for us. So let's say we have 5. So you stick what you want there. So turnips is now equivalent to the number 5. If I wanted to edit it later, let's say I found 2 more, I set it to 7. Now there are ways to do that better with more mathematical, but right now I'm trying to just explain the basics of variables. So your turnips are 5. Turnips is equal to number 5. Then we changed it to the number 7. So how do you use a variable then? So you have this thing and it stores data, and what the heck can I do with it really then? Well, you could use it in a number of ways. So, for example, you can log the value like we've shown, and there's a lot of other ways that you can use these. You can use these in infinite ways that we're not going to explore today, like turnips, log turnips. That'll say 5, and if you log it down here, it's going to say 7. That's another point I want to bring up in a sec. Order of operations again. You can use them in combining strings, so like console.log, I have turnips. That might not read very well, but the idea here is that I'm using a template string format. You could also do it in the standard format of I have turnips, like that. You could do it that way as well. I commented that out because I'm not going to log it twice, but the idea here is we're basically adding the value to the string itself. We're putting it into the string. So instead of just saying 7 here, we're saying whatever the value of turnips is right now. So if that's undefined, it'll say I have undefined turnips. If that's the word, I don't know, blue, it's going to say I have blue turnips. If it's the number 7, like it is in this case, it would say I have 7 turnips. Whatever that variable is, it's going to put into that string there. And that's one of the best parts about variables, that you can use them to basically calculate whatever you need. And by calculate, it doesn't even have to be math. It can be modifying a string, building like one thing I do on Showdown often, well, not too often, but a good amount of times, is I'll build an HTML output based on some variable data, and it'll change based on what it is, like room settings. If you've ever used that command and have the power to change things, the button that is currently selected is disabled. That's variable information. It's checking which one is active, and the disabled one, it puts it, well, the one that's being currently selected is set up as disabled because the variable says this is the one that's selected. Um, but yeah, that's a basic rundown of that. Um, there are some other things you could do with variables, which I'll get to in just a sec. But so far, does anyone have any questions? Okay, what's the difference between undefined and null? That's actually a good question. Let me check that real quick. Null versus undefined. Now I don't want your annoying thing. Well, one thing obviously is null must be defined, assigned, I mean. You cannot just, you'll never get null naturally. You have to set something to null. Null means an empty or non-existent variable. Undefined is usually refers to a variable has been declared but you have not defined a value for it, or you've explicitly set it. Or there's other ways you can get it too, like in objects. Um, yep. They are not equal to each other if you're doing a comparison. They are loosely equal, though we're not up to that yet, really. Let's see here. Alright, there's one thing that they mentioned in this thing I'm looking at with referring to default parameters and functions and methods, but we're not quite up to that. But generally, if you're trying to check if something was defined or not, you'll check if it's not undefined. So if it's undefined, you assume something was not defined. That's what you can confirm. It's all showing orange. You're using parentheses, not bracket braces. Curly braces is what you need to use. I apologize if you cannot see that clearly. I'm pretty sure I turned up my quality, but I think it's turned itself down again. Let me check my video output here. Actually, it's still up. Interesting. Oh, well, I can't change it. Yes, you also, if you're going to use the curly brace, the $ and curly brace, you have to use a backtick, because that's a template string. Otherwise, you have to use the other format I have on screen that's commented out. Wish I could zoom this in so you guys can see it more clearly. But I am using a backtick. Otherwise, if you're going to be using, yeah, so this is good. Otherwise, you need to use one of these, you know. You technically can also do like this. Heck, you could even use plus with the backticks. It doesn't matter. That'll work too. You can use concat strings in the normal way using template strings as well. Yep. Okay. Next up then. Okay, so I think we've gone over that basic part. You could use your value in anything. Like I showed string combining. You can use it in math. You can use it in pretty much anything. You can use it in place of pretty much anywhere that you just use basic data. So, like, you could use it in place of a Boolean, though you don't know what you can use those for yet. We'll get to that very soon. Um, You can use them in place of a number because it can contain a number. You can use it in place of a string, etc. So, yeah. Now, there's three ways to declare a variable, three keywords. You've seen var, which is the most basic type. There's two others that are only available in strict mode, which we are in. This is why you start your file with strict mode. Trust me, it's, excuse me, good practice at this point. Especially since it doesn't break older clients if they don't support strict mode. But anyways, we're server side. Please use strict mode at all times. Two new keywords, let and const. So what do all these do? So const is the easier one to explain. When you declare a variable with const, it's called a constant variable. In other words, its value never changes. Once you assign its value, you cannot change it. If something in your script tries to change it, JavaScript will throw an error. This is a good way to more strictly code your program. Like if you set, I don't know, let's say once a player sets their difficulty in some game, you never want them to be able to change it. Well, you declare difficulty as a constant, and then once you validate and set the difficulty to whatever the player selects, if they try to if something in your code tried to change the difficulty again, it would throw an error. Obviously, if you're actually doing a game, you should have something to block that from happening. But if there's a bug somewhere that allows it to happen, you get an error, which is not always a bad thing. If there's actually an issue that you need to fix, a crash is great, man. It tells me there's an issue, this needs to be fixed, and it gives me all sorts of data on it, so great. Yes, it's JavaScript specific, like Space Cactus has said. How things work may be different in other languages. Um, so please don't assume everything here can be done in any language. It's not the syntax for Ruby or something. This is JavaScript. Um, but yeah, that's the idea of a constant variable, at least. Let, on the other hand, has something to do with scope, which we can't really get much into right now, unfortunately. But more or less, it's where a variable can be accessed. Right now, it's no different than var from where we're working. But when we get into loops and such, I will explain let in more detail. It works exactly the same as var. Otherwise, let, I don't know, pineapples equal blue. Have fun with that. But yeah, if you're using NodeJS, I highly recommend using let over var at all times. If you're using browsers that need to be compatible with older browsers that do not support let and whatnot, then yes, use var. Otherwise, use let. Let is generally better than var. If you guys want me to try to explain let, I can go ahead and drop into that. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on. Oh. Thank you for the follow, Dragon Sword 71. I'm going to assume nobody has a question / nobody wants me to take a look at let and var. At least not right now. We will be getting to that soon. Well, that's a window-based thing. Okay, good. So, I think we've actually covered. Right, there's one more thing I do want to cover here. Deleting variables. We'll introduce one more keyword and teach you how to delete variables. To delete a variable, in other words, get rid of it, it's no longer defined at all. Use the delete keyword and the name of the variables. Name of the variable, I mean. So like we deleted turnips there. Turnips is no longer defined, so if I console.log turnips, I get undefined. It doesn't exist, and if I do turnips equal 5, I get a crash because turnips is not defined. So any questions on that before I dive into the next thing I want to go over? It should be pretty simple to understand overall. But I know sometimes things aren't understood and that can be tricky at first, so I want to give you guys the opportunities to ask questions whenever. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to go over here, I didn't write this in the plan, but I do want to talk about this here, is the order that your script executes in. Um, a file will execute from top to bottom, so only looking at what we could see on screen right now, we're just going to assume that's the top of the file for this example. We start by declaring turnips, a variable called turnips, and setting its value to 5. Then we log that the whatever is contained in turnips to the console. Then we set turnips to 7 and log it to the console. Then we log the string I have, whatever the value of turnips is, turnips, to the console. We create a variable called pineapples and set it to blue using let. We create a constant variable called neverChange and set it to 5. Then we delete turnips, try to log turnips to the console, which would give undefined, and try to set turnips to 5, which crashes. All in that order. So, for example, a crash stops code execution where it occurs. All of this before where we set turnips to 5 is going to work. It's going to run because it's not going to crash. If we set something afterwards, like let turnips equal 9 or 8, I guess, if I could spell right, thank you. That won't run. It won't. You can't fix it afterwards because it's going to already have crashed and stopped. And if it didn't crash, like let's say this line didn't exist, well then it would get to that and run, and turnips would now be 8. It would exist again and be 8. Once again, comments are not run, so that's not an issue. Any questions on anything like that? There could be a lot more I could go into if anyone is confused. We'll get you guys on doing some more complicated things soon to really get you guys to think and really put some pressure on your brains, I guess. And that'll get you guys asking questions. It's not a bad thing, though. You gotta practice and push yourself to learn. Okay, I'll take that as a no. At this point, we have technically reached the end of what I planned to do today. The next step would have been statements and loops, and we got, what, 54 minutes? Not sure if I want to... Oh, question here. Okay. What does delete of an unqualified identifier in strict mode mean? Is that a crash you got?
You can't delete global variables.
Oh, right. Okay, I forgot about that. Strict mode, you cannot delete global variables, and global variables are considered anything you declare like in that context. So, no, you can't use delete in this example, unfortunately. But that's how it would work, like if you were in a scope or something. You won't often have to delete anything. Usually when you're done with a variable, within a specific scope or function or whatever, the JavaScript garbage collector will take care of it for you. So don't worry about that right now. I apologize for my mistake there. We cannot. This is invalid and we'll throw a syntax error. And I don't need that, but we'll keep it anyways for reference. Um, but yeah. Also with error messages, it will usually tell you the line that, oh, always tell you, okay, usually tell you the line that it crashed on, so you can identify where exactly it's going wrong if you're curious. It's usually syntax error, whatever is not defined or something, and then it would say the file followed by the line number. Where will it show you the errors and all that in your terminal? So like, let me go ahead and just cause this to run and crash. let's go ahead and pull this up and run this file. So like here, for example, C users home and documents project PSS blah 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 basic data types.js colon 57. That means line 57. Delete turnips, and then it's showing me exactly what's crashing. Syntax error, delete of an unqualified identifier in strict mode, and then it's gonna give you a stack trace. This is basically unimportant for because we're only running one file. But if you're in something like PS, it could give you the chain of events that led up to the crash and help you jump through files to find it. So it would be in your terminal, basically like this. hmm Okay, is there any more questions? Otherwise, I do have a few basic things I could have you guys do on stream instead of after stream and work through with you guys. Do you guys want to do that, or I don't know if we have time to dive into if statements and whatnot? Because I do have an assignment prepped for all of us, actually. So I think we'll go ahead and do that. Me and my geniusness forgot to do this earlier, but I did set up an basic assignment for you guys to fiddle around with what you've learned today. Doesn't touch on Booleans because, like I said, you can't do anything with them yet. You'll learn what to do with them tomorrow. Um, but this, I'm gonna go ahead and where is it? Come on, Streamlabs, please. Alright, but yeah, in chat there's now a link from Streamlabs. I prepared some assignments for you guys to do if you want after the stream, and we can go ahead and do some of those now, work with them through with you guys because we don't have much. Hey, Middle Realms, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Glad you got a chance to show up today. But I will go ahead and show you guys the contents of that here. Um, but more or less, I kind of forgot to do this earlier because my plan was, okay, I'm going to do these in the morning, but I spent the entire morning wrestling with YouTube because I had to tried to upload my thing, waited an hour, and then it said you have to be verified and deleted it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I verify my account, then I go and upload again. Anyways, um, but yeah, so today, for your reference, Middle Realms, we've gotten into basic data types. We went over Booleans, basically more or less the fact they exist, some basic ideas about truthy and falsy, variables, strings, numbers, doing basic math, combining strings, deleting variables, so that's not going to quite work because we're only working in the global scope right now. But we've gone over a good amount today, and we've actually done it faster than I expected us to do. So this was originally planned to be something you guys could do after the stream, but I think we'll go ahead and just work on it here and see what you guys come up with. Um, More or less, I'm going to add a bunch of assignments as we go through. And can I do it in the comment or send you a paste bin? Yes, you could. If you have a GitHub account, actually, you can make GIST yourself. Thank you for the follow, Middle Realms. Um, so if you have your own GitHub account, you can go like to what's the name of the site? Yeah, gist.github.com, and in the upper corner there should be a plus, and you can create your own GIST. And of course, GitHub is a requirement for this course, so you probably should have one. If you don't have one right now, I suggest you make one later, but just use Pastebin or something for now. You can also just DM me stuff. But yeah, Pokemon Showdown JavaScript class, day 2, basic data types, post-stream assignments, which is going to be on stream now. This assignment sheet will give you a chance to work further with Boolean strings, numbers, variables, and some of the things you could do with them. If you want me to review what you've done for errors and whatnot, fill out this info before sending me a copy. You can make GIS too if you have a GitHub account. And then I asked for basically just your Discord tag and if you want your Showdown or Twitch username and or. But more or less, I declared the file in strict mode, and the first thing on this list is pretty simple. Use JavaScript to solve the following math questions and print the solution to the terminal in the format the solution for question is answer here. Don't forget the period after answer here. And then I wrote them out in words, not numbers. No copy pasting for you guys. So more or less just put your answers in this area here, 35, 36, etc. Feel free to make more lines and whatnot. Um, Obviously, you'd use console.log for that. So I'll let you guys go ahead and poke into that. Um, the second one would be create a variable called x and solve the following math questions with x set to 3 different numbers of your choosing. So any 3 numbers that you want, you could set it to a really tiny decimal, a huge number, a big negative, whatever. Have fun with it, basically. When you change x's value, be sure to log that x's values change and what it changed to in the console. Use whatever message you prefer for that. Don't just log x because I won't be able to see that that was x being changed or something. You'll have to specify that x is now whatever or something. Log the answers to each of the questions in the same way you did in the last question, and all these questions are like the last thing except like you have x plus 7 as one of them. And I did put some nested things in there, like the quantity indicates nesting. Yes, good trick writing them out in words, not numbers. Yeah, because otherwise people are just going to copy paste this. And that's kind of not the point. I don't want you to just copy paste things into console.logs. I want you guys to prove that you know the idea here. This is pretty simple overall. But we can get into more stuff. So like it's 7:15 now. If you guys want to start poking into that, that's great. Actually, since we're sitting doing this, and I'm not going to do it on stream myself because that gives you guys all the answers. Would anyone like to come into chat and work through them in chat? Like a couple people maybe. I'm happy to switch to the student general voice chat if you guys want to do that. Actually, heck, why don't I just go ahead and do that? Um, okay, I've swapped to student voice, so feel free to hop in. And I'm going to mute any voice coming in other than mine for a little bit so I can double check that nobody is way too loud. Because obviously that's bad. But yeah, let me go ahead and actually take this content from this document and we'll go ahead and do it in there. So I'm just going to get the raw so I can copy. If you hit the raw button, you get a plain text file which you can take and put wherever. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just make a new file. We're going to call it assignment1.js. You can call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call the file. And yeah, it's a giant comment basically at this point. So feel free to unmute Saclad. I'm not broadcasting your voice, though I do need to have you do a mic check real quick to make sure you're not blasting our viewers' eardrums. Yeah, that's too loud. Okay. It's fine. I'm turning you down on Discord. Try now. Okay, that's probably much better. Okay, so we have Scrimble on stream right now, and Scrimble, you wanted to work through some of these, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just getting everything set up and whatnot.
Honestly, I probably should ask people to install LiveShare on their Visual Studio Code so I could just get people to jump into my editor and show what it is like on stream. I didn't think of that
That
though
would
until now.
probably be a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, LiveShare is a bit of a pain to set up, at least if you don't get it, so I'm not going to ask you to do that right now. For now, I suppose you could tell me what you want to type if you want me to show it on stream or just put it in chat and so whatnot. But yeah, we'll go ahead and work through these. Let me know when you're ready to go, and anyone else, you're also welcome to join the voice chat. You just have to have the student role to do so. And speaking of that, if you're new here from Twitch, welcome to the stream. This is day 2 of me teaching JavaScript to people with no prior experience whatsoever.
I finished my homework.
Oh my gosh, instantly I get homework problem. Just no, you did it wrong part. You get an F.
Why?
Well, first of all, you just logged the results to the console. You didn't log you didn't log it with the solution is.
I thought I misunderstood that.
Okay, that's fair. You still get an F though because you're not a student. Also, I'm not grading them except for you.
Fair.
Okay, for anyone wondering what this form of solution I want here is like console.log. I'm gonna use basic here instead of the other thing. I'm gonna lose the solution for 2 plus 7, or you could just type it out. Like the first one's so simple, I'll just give it to you guys. 2 plus 7 is, and then you actually use JavaScript to calculate the answer. So 2 plus 7. So like, here's your answer for the first one. You get 1 free. So that's like the way I want to see it. But if you do it a different way and you just got confused, I'm not going to kill you over it. It's not a you must do this. It's optional anyway. So as the idea here is I want you to practice combining strings, doing math, understanding your order, especially that those parentheses are important. Because if you don't have them, you're going to get the solution for 2 plus 7 is 27. And that is not quite correct now, is it? You could also do that if you're not, if it's a dollar sign though, but you can also do that instead of a pound sign. But yeah. Right, you're in. Yeah, there you go. That's the correct answer there. It would log the solution for 2 plus 7 is 9. So tell me when you're ready, Scrimble, and we can skip
Okay.
question 1, I suppose. But if you want to do that on your own later, sure. But otherwise,
I'm used to Ruby.
I'm working on it.
all right. But yeah, that's fair. I'm used to JavaScript, obviously. But if I had to do one of these assignments in Ruby or something, I might screw up and use $sign instead.
Yep, working on it right now.
Yeah, no rush. Let me turn you down a touch more, actually. Wow, that's louder than I thought it would be.
Am I still too loud for Twitch?
It's okay. Fart is at 25% too.
Ah.
I just trying to make sure you're not hitting the red. Try say something now.
Hello.
Okay, now you're a little too quiet. I'll turn you up a bit and we should be good. Okay, 31 should work. Okay,
No, I think 25 would be nice.
welcome Chent Pack, welcome to the stream. Are you new to the class or? Because I'm doing a class right now specifically. You're welcome to join in anytime. It's free for anyone to join. Alright, well, welcome anyways. For anyone who is new here and is interested, I'm currently working on teaching users with no prior programming experience whatsoever JavaScript, specifically using a NodeJS engine. This is the class document. It contains the plan, schedule, and details for the class. There's no specific we'll do X, Y, Z on these dates because some dates will be faster than others will be slower than others, so we don't know. I'd rather not rush it and force it through. I'd rather, if we need to take 3 days on something because the class doesn't get it, then we'll do that. And the Discord is also important for that class. The Discord's linked in the document as well if you just have the document. But that's where we basically hang out, and you can ask me questions anytime there as well. But yeah, that's the basic idea here. This is the second lesson. The first one was mostly a lot of core concepts that are important to programming, but not really any syntax. Yeah, it's pretty cool, honestly. I'm happy to finally be able to do this. It's been planned for quite a while. and I've had a lot of people express interest in it, so I'm pretty happy with how it's going so far. Let me know when you're ready, Scrimble, and we'll go ahead and go through the assignment on screen.
Yeah, just real quick, what would you use as multiplication in JS?
Asterisk.
An asterisk
Asterisk.
is used for multiplication in JS. So,
Right.
like, I'll post it in stream chat, this symbol. I did go over that, I'm pretty sure. Yes, I swear I did. Yeah, like multiply asterisk in our big example document.
All right.
And again, for those of you coming in, I do plan to do this for an extensive period of time as we're just getting started here. The plan is, if you're looking at it, but if you're not, is quite lengthy from this point forward still. Um, so yeah, it'll be a while before we're done. If you're interested, you can always join the Discord and get the role. If you're interested in participating, there's past records of all the videos too, so you can catch up. And if you're just interested in watching this or my normal my normal streams, which are I program for Pokemon Showdown, a Pokemon battle simulator, you can go ahead and follow and turn on notifications, and you'll get notified whenever I go live. And if you're not on Twitch a lot, but you're on Discord a lot, the Discord has a stream notifications role, even if you're not interested in the class. And if you're only interested in the class, I do ping the students role for when we start class streams, but not others. So no overlap there. Anyways, you don't have to do all the problems before we do this, Scrimple. I was gonna like have you.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah. I thought you were taking forever to set up.
No. I just started working on the problems.
No, no, no. I was gonna ask you to like do them one by one and just like tell me
All
what to put
right,
on,
right,
basically. Um, but
right.
yeah, I guess we'll just start putting in what answers you have done and go from there. Okay, so this has been 8 minutes,
All
so
right.
waiting for Scrimple to do all the work without us.
I finished my homework
I'm the
again.
Oh
worst.
my god. Okay, who wants to grade Fart's homework for me? You guys can be as rude as you want. Okay,
Uh,
you still get an F.
we should have done a fucking screen share.
What you? All right, so I don't know what I'd use for
Okay,
screen share at
if
this
I
point.
remember right, you can set up a screen share in the voice chats, right?
I mean, I could. I guess I could do that kind of, but that would be hard for everyone else to see. I don't think I could full screen that. Or maybe. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
you do have a
I
thumbnail.
could make that mostly full screen. I could try setting that up in a second here. But first, Fart, you get an F because you didn't complete the instructions for question 2. You were supposed to change the value of x so it's set 3 times. You only set x to a value once, and then redo all your questions. Uh,
Darn.
the solution to x plus 7 is 650 minus x. Yes, that's a very good equation there.
Fire.
Let me go ahead and set this
How
thing
dare
up.
you?
I will
How
post the link in Steam
dare.
General. Let me do this.
Right. So your
We'll do the same kind of trick as I did last time, so we can have video call in a server, not a group call or something. Let me grab server ID, and then this thing, and clicking that should work if you're on a computer. Did it work? I assume you're on a computer because you're doing code. It's in Student General, by the way. Saclat or Scrimble.
all right.
Yeah, if it's in there, go ahead and start sharing your VS Code. I don't know if that'll load quite right. It might not if you're... Okay, sure. Alright.
That needs to be fixed. Shit.
Yeah, I'd just full screen your thing. Okay. So we'll go ahead and switch to this in a second. I'll need to make a thing that targets it, but if you guys just give me a moment, I'll set up my
Alright, I can't tab over.
I'll have OBS target the screen in just a moment. Let me
Alright.
create a new window capture, add source, call it. Actually, let me just change the properties of the one I already have. Discord done. Okay, this thing is going to. If it would cooperate, that would be excellent, but I don't know if it's going to do that exactly. Maybe? No?
Hopefully.
Wow, it's just not cooperating now, is it?
Oh, that's an issue.
Multiplayer version of QWOP called QWOP. What the heck?
Cooperate. Cooperate.
Oh my god. Dang it. Okay, this thing is not going to cooperate. Never mind, I suppose. I apologize about that, but it seems like we're not going to be able to get that to display, so you're just going to have to tell me / show me at the same time. So we'll start with question 1 then.
We'll start with question 1. Okay.
Yeah, of question 1, the first one, not of question 2. Like question 1 would be. Oh, and I
Because
already
we
did.
explained this as a class.
Oh, right. I already did the use strict at the top of the file, by the way. You don't need to do your own.
I need to put it in again.
That's fine.
I don't know, did I have it?
It's fine. It's a good habit. Okay, so your first answer is exactly what I have, almost actually. However, you're wrong here, because what you have, and I will put this on stream, is basically this. And if you notice, we have this red 1 on my thing, which means there's one error. Specifically here, expected parenthesis. More or less, you did not close all your parentheses. So you have an opening parenthesis here and a closing here, and you also have an opening here. You did not close your console.log. Also, don't forget the period. I did that so that you guys would not forget that. A nitpick is you also want to put your spaces between your operators and your numbers so it looks cleaner and is easier to read. That's good practice, so we'll go ahead and just mention that so you can work on that a little more and improve that. But otherwise, not bad, not bad. I have crippling turnips. I like how you changed that.
Yeah, I pulled up visual code. I was like, huh. Wait, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and run everything through this first. Cause now I'm just self-conscious. You fucked me up, man.
Oh my god.
Alright, okay. Yeah, that's an issue. I forgot to put parentheses here.
Yeah, so for example, yeah, like you did there, you forgot your opening line there. So like their third question, I will go ahead and type that out. They forgot their opening thing, so they had an unstarted string. That's another thing you got to watch out for. Make sure to not fail to start your strings, otherwise, you'll run into issues as a result. So 5 minus 14, I'll add the spaces for you. And you scrolled and I can't see. Oh, there it is. Is equal to. You could also do it in that format. I really don't mind. And then we have this. Looks like you're at, or at least you're doing it in Git, so you just have
Or is
this.
it a streamer or a student?
So what now?
Is streamer or is it a student? What you just
I don't remember saying either of those words actually.
Oh, am I kinda know?
I don't know. Did you say something about that or? Anyways,
Yeah, I'm cutting out a lot.
okay,
Holy
that's not
shit.
good, but um, like I said, your issue with that third one is you forgot to start your string with a double quote because you're using double quotes on that string. Um, Another thing, VS Code is also nice because it will automatically open and close all those for you. So that's another reason I recommend VS Code. For those of you that don't know, you could format your string in this way as long as you're like combining strings. I don't mind too much. But like what I do for this third one is quite literally this. That's what I do for the third one.
Where are you putting that? Are you putting it in the stream? Alright.
Yeah, everything's in the stream. I will show what I'm doing on stream.
Alright.
QWOP, call it QWOPerate. Jeez Louise. Cooperate. Okay, that's a bad pun. Okay, non-critical ping. Nothing's going on in chats. I'm still open for questions any time, guys. Let me know how you guys are doing on this if you're doing it now. And if you have any questions. And before you submit, I highly suggest you guys run your files. And it should output everything cleanly without crashing. So that's a great way. Always test your code. That's another thing I can teach you right now. Before you submit it off to whatever it's doing, test it first because otherwise you're going to have a lot of issues and that's not a good thing. So, we'll go ahead and continue here. More or less all these are pretty much the same. I think I'm just going to skip off to question 5, I believe. Actually, I didn't even use modulus in these examples, so if you guys want to add something that does like modulus calculates the remainder of, feel free. I didn't think of it when I was writing this.
Divided.
So, for extreme example, I'm going to do another one of these. The quantity 12 minus 2 divided by 5. So, we'll set this up, console.log, and we'll just quite literally the quantity, and I didn't start a string, the quantity, and we're just going
But
to,
an ADB.
but yeah, so instead of doing that, we're going to translate this into numbers. So the quantity 12 minus 2 divided by 5. So the quantity signifies you need to use parentheses. So that stands for 12 minus 2 in parentheses divided by 5. So yeah, the solution for that is, and then we need to stick our answer in here. And I'm using a template string, so we're just going to stick it into here. We don't need to use parentheses with a template string actually because it's going to understand how it is. You do need to for like this method, but not for a template string. So we still will of course use parentheses because the question needs us to. Exactly like this. The reason we use the parentheses here is because it says the quantity, and like we said originally, and like you've learned in math, order of operations is multiplication and division before addition and subtraction, but in this case we actually want to take 2 away from 12 before we divide by 5 to get a solution of 2 rather than whatever the other way around is. So yeah, be sure to check your order of operations and whatnot, but that is the answer to 5 on the 5th part of question 1. 5th of, actually that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th, my bad, of 8. For question 2, I'll do a little bit of this as well. Create a variable called x and solve the following math questions with x set to 3 different numbers of your choosing. When you change x value, be sure to log that, yada, yada, yada. So first we need to create x. We need to define it. We don't want it to be constant because we're going to change its value here. And like I said, use let over var in basically all circumstances. So we're going to do let x equal, and how about we do 77 as the number because that's what I feel like doing. just like me, you can use whatever you want. So we're going to go ahead and log these questions. We're just going to start by logging what the value is. Console.log the value of x is, and then what x currently is, so x. So this is going to output the value of x is 77 because x is currently 77 when it executes this line. So next we're going to log an answer. So I'm just going to do 650 minus x. So that's quite literally the solution for 650 minus x is, and then we do in parentheses, because we're not using templates this time, I'm showing you multiple ways again. 650, wait, I did plus, but minus x, and then we need to add our period onto the end, and done. Now, if you're doing this multiple times, I'm going to skip the other two so you guys can do that as well. You'll want to modify x. You won't want to use let. Instead, you want to do x equal whatever it is, so some number like that, I guess. You can actually copy and paste these last parts because you're just setting x equal to whatever. So like this would be question 1 answered each time. So like I'd put question 2 here like Q2. I'm commenting it out because I'm not actually doing them for you. Q2, Q3, and whatnot. And you can, of course, add your own questions if you guys want to. Feel free. But this format is a good format because you create the variable x, log what its value is, calculate the solutions to your questions, then you change x. Some people might do it in the way, I want to do all of question 1 in one group with each of the x values. So that requires you changing the value of x way too many times. So like if you did, okay, set x to 77. The value of x is x. The solution for 650 minus x is that. Okay, then we set x to this and we do all this. But instead of that, instead of what we currently have, we went off and did, and then we changed x's value. Okay, x equals 77 again. Then we do q2, x equal this huge number that I don't remember. And then we did Q2 again, like that. No, that's repeating yourself too much. Remember, dry. Do not repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself.
Yeah.
It's much cleaner to just log it in that format. If you have to log it in the other format, then okay, that's not really repeating yourself then to get the desired output. But in this situation, I feel
All right.
the other way is good too. So yeah, I'll put up what I had again. If you can go, when you're done with your thing, go ahead and just send me it and I'll run it on stream. But yeah. And for anyone who's wondering, no, none of this is graded. If you do send it to me, I will give you feedback on it and probably nitpick it pretty hard. But just so you know, when I'm looking into it and really going over the details of it to try to help you improve, I'm not doing it because I'm saying you're a bad coder or something. A, you're new. B, I'm just trying to help you pick up good habits and eliminate bad ones and, actually write quality code. So, yeah, send it to me when you're done, Scribble. Let's see, how close are you? Fairly. Okay.
All right, so that works.
Oh, by the way, on your example that I saw, it looks like you were using the $ curly braces on a pair of double quotes. That kind of setup only works with backticks, aka template strings. So make sure to not do it another way.
Right. Okay.
Also, looking at questions, your questions are still not quite set up right. Go back to where your questions were. Like, okay, so the first question, you're still missing that parenthesis at the end that I pointed out earlier.
Am I?
at least in the Git gist, I don't know about
And question 1.
yeah, on the gist you're missing your actually it looks like the problem is you have a closing parenthesis um after is equal to space um single quote then a parenthesis. That parenthesis is not supposed to be there because it's just going to log 2 plus 7 is equal to and then syntax error because it doesn't get why you're trying to add something to that. But yeah, your parenthesis, the location of your parentheses is really critical to show what they have on stream to the rest of you. It's console.log. Double check what it is.
Yeah, I get that because what the computer is trying to do is trying to run what's inside of the parentheses and show what's in the parentheses and then actually run said parentheses afterwards.
I didn't quite catch what you said there. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so in general, what's going on? Placement of the parentheses is important because the computer itself is trying to enact a certain order. So you have to keep the order correct, otherwise it's not going to run properly.
Okay,
And
but
with the
your
parentheses, it's
setup
going to,
is
if you don't close it.
I mean, yeah, but you also have to nest them properly. Like your setup here is not going to work at all actually. So like here, I'll show you what they have here on stream. Let me just run this in a terminal so you see it. Paste. Okay, so what you have here, you have console.log, open parentheses, start a string, 2 plus 7 is equal to space, close string, close parentheses, plus another set of parentheses inside of that is 2 plus 7, end of line. So that's not going to work. Nan. The reason that you get 2 plus 7 is equal to, and then you have nan at the end of that. Why nan? Because the lines, you logging that value, and then it's the node terminal is returning whatever the value of the entire line is, which is nan. Um, so the correct way to do this is remember where your parentheses are. So, like I said at the start, everything. Could whoever is listening to me mute that because the feedback is okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself.
All right. With console.log, the correct way to do it with console.log is everything inside of the pair of parentheses for console.log is what's logged. So the correct way to do it is actually if I could not do that, that would be helpful. Okay. This. So I will explain what's going on here. Everything inside this is but log. What's highlighted is what's being logged. So you can see the opening and closing parentheses for console.log outside of it. It doesn't, it's basically it counts how many parentheses you've opened. So like if you start over at this end, let me make sure this is, can you guys even see this? Yes, good. Okay, just checking. So it starts over here at console.log. It sees this first one. Okay, so we have one parenthesis open here. So then it goes through the rest of this, blah, 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 and it hits another one. Okay, now we have two open. It finds the first close, and it's going to assume that it's closing that second parenthesis before any other ones. So this is the parenthesis pair I'm talking about here. That is its own little pair. It's not, the pair is not this, or well, I highlighted one too many parentheses, this. It's not going to just assume the first one is closed by the first closing parenthesis it sees, because that wouldn't allow for nesting to work in JavaScript. So, yeah. And console.log will log whatever's within its pair. So like I said, this one is closed by this one, and then this one over here is going to be closed by that first one because it's the first one. If you stuck another one on the end, you'd get a syntax error because it doesn't know what the heck to do with that. It's already got as many open as it can handle. But I hope that helps a little bit. because this is more correct. 2 plus 7 is equal to 9, and then of course it returns undefined because we're using the node thing. It's going to give you the results of the line, which you can ignore. Um, but yes, that's the more correct answer. The other one didn't even log the 9. And yes, nan is not a number. That's not important here, particularly though, because it's trying to add the result of a console.log, which is always undefined, and something else. But anyways, that's not important. You guys will learn about function return values later. So did that help out Scrimble or?
A lot. That was pretty comprehensive.
Is anyone okay? That's good. Is anyone still confused about how parentheses work in JavaScript? I figured something like this would happen eventually. That's why I didn't want to push forward. I wanted to try to take it slow, and make sure you guys got the concept before we continue. That's why I highly suggest you do the assignment and send it in to me, please. Just let me have a look at it. I'm not gonna chew you out if you did it wrong. I'm only here to help you. Feel free to, if we're off stream, to just go off and poke through the stream and try to find the answers in there and listen in. I'm happy to help you out. And if you just can't figure it out, come to me. I will sit through and do it with you. But yeah, like I showed here, that is the correct way to do it. So feel free to make your corrections, Scrimble, and we'll run your file when you're done with it.
Yeah, I made my correction.
Okay, good. That looks a lot better.
So it's gonna be +4. +8.
Alright, let me check a few things while we wait on Scrimble. How are the rest of you guys doing so far?
Do it.
I'll assume silence is an indicator of okay, or I'm not doing it right now. Oh, and later on I will be submitting an answer version of my own for you guys to look at if you want. I'll make sure it's on a separate GIS so you guys don't. I'll just do separate GIS for everything, but yeah, you guys should be able to just look at how I would end up doing it. And then you can nitpick me and tell me how I did it all wrong. And Fart can try to give me an F, but I could say no.
I'm making my thing even worse.
Oh my gosh. Do I need to?
1, 2, 5.
Fart's doing his homework a third time.
Yep,
What
Did
a
I make
try
it
hard.
too hard, Fart?
it's very hard.
So I'm going to want to enter the quantity of there. Or no, I want to enter.
What are you trying to do?
I'm just going over the I think it's question
Okay, guys, we're getting
6
close to question 6 of part 1.
or 6. Yeah, I think so. But I'm just going it over and talking to myself about
Okay, try to get
some
done
weird.
in within the next few minutes. We've got about 8 minutes until stream time's up. Um, so in the meantime, while Scrimble works on that and we try to get a bit of their results to log, not all of them, of course, because I don't think we're gonna have it done in time. And that's pretty normal for a new programmer, so nobody feel bad about taking a while on it or whatever. Um, so I'll go ahead and let you guys know about some stuff. Um, Again, for those of you who this is your first time in here, if you have not already heard, I am doing this JavaScript class for people who have no prior programming experience whatsoever. If you are interested in participating, feel free to hang out with us. We have I will link the class link in here again, and the Discord. Um, the class link document also has a Discord invite in there. Um, you'll
All right.
want to join the server and ask for the student role if you're planning to join the class. Within the class, you'll want to go in there and grab the last part 1 video and watch that. That is going to be very critical because honestly, part 1 is the most important part of this whole class as it lays the foundation for everything else, and this is all going to build on each other. It's just going to get more complicated from here, and eventually you come in, you're going to be like, what in the world's going on if you don't know JavaScript? So that's something that I want to try to help you avoid and help you through. So if you're interested, feel free to hop in and do that. You can also find the past video links on Twitch right now while they're not expired, but there will be a permanent YouTube playlist that I cannot quite link yet because, well, it's not set up yet. I can't do that until 24 hours after the stream, and it has not been 24 hours since our day 1 stream yet. Just about an hour short. Um, for your future plans for this thing, we're aiming to go daily except for maybe Mondays, and next week might be quite busy. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done next week because it's finals for me. Summer class finals are fun. But the goal is 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern daily. Do these classes and try to do one bullet point listed on the stream document, which I will go ahead and pull up. And by bullet point, I mean one of these. Like the next, we're going to do statements and loops tomorrow. Day after, we're aiming for Git and GitHub basics. So if any of you doing this don't have a GitHub account or don't have Git installed, get that done. Arrays, objects, functions, methods, new existing open source project, built-in standard library classes, and like some of these like small things like this will combine multiple together. Like we'll probably combine classes, errors, something like that. Um, but yeah, if we move fairly quickly, we could probably have this done in 2 weeks. If we move fairly slowly, it could take way longer, but we'll see. I don't expect anyone to be a super pro at the end of this, but the tools should be there and you should have some experience. You just need to keep practicing it even after the course. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to be a master or anything after this. Um, right, where was it going? Otherwise, for my normal streams, I normally stream myself doing work for Showdown, such as the Super Staff Brawl update. I'm going to do some translations work soon, though I don't know how much of that'll be streamed actually, because it might just be me doing policy work behind the scene and turning stuff into JSON files, which is probably not very interesting. But I am also looking into some other projects. I have not quite locked anything in yet, and do need to work on a Discord bot. I don't know if I'll stream that though. That was kind of a mess. Um, but yeah, if
What
you're
do you
interested
mean?
and you're not
We love.
already, follow and turn on notifications. What was that, Scrimble?
I was about to say, what do you mean? We love the mess.
And if you guys want to watch me struggle, once I at least get my bearings, I'll probably start streaming because I don't want you guys to sit here and listen to me say nothing for 3 hours while I intensely focus on trying to learn TypeScript. um,
Right.
but yeah. So, other than that, oh, right, one other thing I wanted to announce. Normally, like, I encourage people to, if they're interested in supporting me, to use bits or a subscription, and I do still want to encourage that if you're interested in that. But another way you can support me is art. Specifically, I'm looking into potentially getting some emotes or and badges for bits and for supporters. You know, basically sub badges, which are loyalty badges, bit badges, which you get for cheering, and of course sub emotes. So if you're interested in helping me out with that, if you want to support me, that's a great way you can do it, and potentially um, I do have a sub role on the Discord where there's a special channel in there. I could potentially give you access to that too, because that is, I know, a major contribution in time and effort. Um, I absolutely know that programming is the same way. If I'm programming for someone, like someone asks, "Oh, can you help me with this really simple thing that'll take like 4 or 5 hours of my time?" So I know exactly how that feels. It's just up to you if you want to help out, and if you do, I'm very grateful. Feel free to contact me on Discord about it if you are. Otherwise, thank you for watching anyways. That's a great thing to do. So, Scrimble, what's your status on your stuff? What do you got right now?
Still working on it.
How close are
But
you? Because if it's
I've
fair,
nearly got the first set of questions done. Nearly moved to section 2.
can you just send me your stuff for section 1 and we'll run that because we're just about out of time. Like just
And
copy paste
do
it
you
to
want me to
Discord.
DM it to you?
Yeah,
Or
Discord.
I'll
Just
DM you everything that I haven't done.
okay. Feel free to just cut out the giant comments. I don't need them.
Yeah, I just DM'd you everything I've done. None of the comments or anything.
Okay, let's go ahead and run this then. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and head into our editor here, and I'm going to save this new file. Let's do it in here. Alright, we'll go ahead and run what you have here. Let me go ahead and kill my node process, node scribble.js. So before we do that, let's look at this. Let's see here. 2 plus 7, 5 minus 14, 8 times 11. Not quite in the right order, but that's fine. 80 divided by 9. 4 times 6 plus 18. And then you did the let x, the quantity, 12 minus 2 divided by 5 is equal to. Um, yeah, okay, that could work, yeah. You did the. And you decided to turn that one into one using x. Okay, sure. Let's go ahead and run this. Um, that appears to be correct. Good job, good job. That's actually very nice. That's good so far. Nitpicks.
I thought it was mixed up a little bit.
The only nitpicks I have is like your 2 plus 7, space your operators out.
Yeah. On that and
Yeah,
times the
yeah, space your operators out.
yeah.
Otherwise, good, excellent. Um, So for the rest of you guys, do not hesitate to send me what you have when you're done. You can use Discord DMs, you can use Pastebin, you can use Hastebin, you can use GitHub Gist, which you should have if you have a GitHub account. If you're a student, I did ask you to set one of those up. Um, Link is Gist. You could just Google up GitHub Gist, and it's gist.github.com. There's a plus in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll want to hit New Gist, or if I don't even remember if it's a drop down, it just takes you there. Um, Difference between public and secret is basically secret or unlisted. Public are things people can find, so it's up to you which way you want to do it. Secret, you have to give the link to people. Anyways, it's about 2 hours and 2 minutes into the stream, so it's 8:02 p.m. So we're gonna get ready to end here and go raid somebody. Let's see
Fun.
here. Yeah, it's always fun to raid people. I've had a couple good streamers who I'm actually just chatting with now because I've traded them. It's actually nice how many people you could just find from a raid and whatnot and meet. This community is really nice, so I highly suggest when a raid happens, you just hang out and talk with them for a little bit if you have the time and are interested. I'm trying to pick interesting like game dev stuff, so like um Card game Unity C Sharp. That's interesting. What do you guys think? That sounds interesting to me.
That sounds interesting to me.
Alright, sure. We'll go ahead and look at his thing real quick. Let me see what he's doing here. Make sure he's actually here before. And I gotta sit through an ad. Okay. We'll wait for that and then resume. But yeah, so we'll probably raid this guy. But sure. Yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and get this set up. Come on. There we go. I also like to raid smaller channels if possible because they usually don't have as much traffic, and being able to send like 10 people over there is great. So we're gonna raid. We're gonna end this stream with a raid on Dragon Slumber here, who's creating a card game in C# with Unity. So thank you guys for watching today. Tomorrow's stream will be on statements and loops, so we'll learn how to check execute code based on if what's basically you'll be able to decide if you want to execute code or not based on variables or whatever, and you'll be able to do an action multiple times with only a few lines, many thousands of times if you wanted to. So great tools, very essential. We'll be learning them tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, unless something comes up. And so yeah, we'll see you guys then. Again, Discord if you want notifications, or follow and turn on notifications. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you guys later.